You've probably got one of these. Smartphones are ubiquitous these days. They're in most people's pockets. But have you ever thought about the chips that power these things? Back in the 1980s, there was a very successful British computer company called Acorn. Their success was built around a range of computers called the BBC Micro, and those devices were found in most schools across the country, and many of us learnt to program on those computers. By the mid-80s, Acorn realised that they needed to create a new generation of computer, and they had some design criteria, the biggest of which was it needed to be cheap. Now, to make a cheap computer, you need to make everything about it cheap, and in particular, you need to make the box cheap. Back in the 80s, most computers had metal boxes, and the reason for that was because the processing units that sat at the heart of the computers ran pretty hot. Acorn wanted to save cost by having a plastic box, but the problem with plastic is if you put a hot object next to it, it has a nasty tendency to melt. So Acorn needed to find a central processing unit that would run cool. They spoke to all of the main manufacturers and they could find nothing. So they set about designing their own chip. In 1985, they received a prototype of the chip that they designed and they started to wire it up in their labs for testing. And something remarkable happened. The central processing unit sprang into life even though it didn't have the power in. What was going on was, as they set it up in the test rig, there was enough latent power. This was fascinating. They had specified a chip to run cool. To make it run cool, they needed to have it as low power, and this thing was so low power it hardly needed any electricity coming into it at all, 0.1 watts, and it was a tenth of what they designed it for. Now, they built their new computer, it's called the Archimedes, and it wasn't particularly successful. It came out at the time that IBM PCs were starting to really take hold of the market. But over time, Acorn, which then became a company called ARM, started to realise that in this very cool running processor, they had a very low power processor, and that had a range of applications in a new wave of computing device that was starting to become available. And today, ARM designed chips feature in almost all smartphones, in Apple Macs, in iPads, and a host of other smart devices. When we tell the stories of successes in business, whether that's organisations or individuals, what we tend to focus on are things that are actionable insights. We talk about the things that they did, the talents they deployed, the hard work that they put in, as if you just replicate all those things, you too will be successful. The problem with that approach, though, is that there's also luck involved, there's serendipity, there are accidents, and you can't recreate those. You can't recreate ARM's success by trying to be able to build something and it turns out to do something else. It just doesn't work like that. And that's really important when you're reading about what might make you successful.